Welcome to the VinSmoke Benji channel. My name is Benji, and today we'll be talking about One Piece chapter 1062, Adventure in the Land of Science. And this chapter is incredibly interesting, to say the least. But before I begin, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to the VinSmoke Benji channel. I promise you guys, I have a lot of content coming your way. Just give me a little bit more time. I promise you, I'm not going to disappoint. As well as go ahead and subscribe to the Geek podcast channel. I will be posting a couple videos on there as well. And if you haven't already, go ahead and join the Geek Giant Discord. We have a plethora of anime and manga communities within there. More specifically for us though, the One Piece chat, which you probably see me defending my boy Sanji against a bunch of these sword swallowers. Okay, let me chill. No, but for real, go ahead and join the One Piece chat. We have a bunch of debates, a bunch of conversations. Big shout out to all the homies over there, Party Pete, James, Soma, all the homies over there, Red God, go ahead and join that chat. We have a bunch of conversations over there. But without further ado, no more wasting your time. Let's go ahead and begin with this chapter review. So to start, we get an incredibly interesting cover story detailing what's going on in Whole Cake Island. And I know that we've just left off on the Germa 66 rescue mission, which was accompanied by Caesar Clown. Yet in this cover story, we actually move on to Cacao Island, which was last seen to be visited by two mysterious individuals. And from the looks of it, we can tell that one of them was my boy Aokiji. Because in this cover story, the entirety of Cacao Island is covered in ice. Covered in ice. And we know one specific individual who's nice with the ice. My boy Aokiji. And from the looks of it, it's seeming more and more probable that Aokiji has decided to team up with the Blackbeard Pirates. Now, I don't know who actually went with Aokiji to Cacao Island. My guess would be Van Argar from the Blackbeard Pirates, but I'm not 100% sure. And possibly this was the first test for Aokiji to actually gain Blackbeard's trust by completely covering this island of innocent people in ice. I definitely want to see how Aokiji's motives are, especially now, especially trying to team up with the Blackbeard Pirates, and what it may mean for the final arc of One Piece. Because Aokiji is definitely still top tier strong. But Aokiji hype, I don't even care if he's a part of the Blackbeard Pirates. Aokiji is that man. But moving on with the actual chapter, we actually continue with what seems to be a baddie Vegapunk. And from the looks of it, Frankie looks especially excited, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm very happy for Frankie for this upcoming arc. I would love to see Frankie get some amount of validation from the famous scientist Vegapunk. And hopefully we'll get a new upgrade or a new power-up for the Thousand Sunny, and also a new power-up for my boy Frankie, or at least some kind of knowledge that he's able to gain from studying the famous Vegapunk. And Usopp and Sanji are also excited to see this woman as well. But Robin is a little bit more skeptical of the moment and actually mentions that this is nothing that the famous Vegapunk was once described as, who has been described to be a lot older and a male. And then we get some clarification of this Vegapunk. This is solely one of 6 entities of the famous Vegapunk. Vegapunk has so much work and responsibility that he's decided to split his, consciousness into 6 other beings, apart from himself. And the one we are looking at right now is Vegapunk number 2, Lilith. I'm hoping I say that right. Side note, she's also described as evil, but she's still a baddie. I mean, who cares, dog? And Lilith is very interested in raiding the Straw Hats for all other resources and basically putting those resources into Vegapunk and his laboratory. And basically she's threatening the crew except for Luffy, Jinbei, Chopper, and Bonnie, who are on a separate part of Egghead Island. But Lilith then surrounds the group with these weaponized sea beasts that we've never seen before, and I'm not gonna lie, it looks pretty crazy. But basically she's using them in order to frighten this group of the Straw Hats. Lilith is then paged by Shaka, who seems to be Vegapunk number 1, not necessarily the main body, but number 1 within this group of 6. And he lays out that this newly appointed Emperor's crew is a force to be reckoned with, and they should not be taken lightly. And Shaka points to both Zoro and Robin, two individuals themselves who are a force to be reckoned with, as well as Sanji. I know Sanji's not really in the conversation because, I mean, he's looking at a baddie, man. He's like, come on, son. Like, it's Sanji, dog, you know? He does his thing. Let him do his thing. So first we begin with Zoro. Zoro, the 1.111 billion berry bounty swordsman who knows the reins exactly to end you. And then Robin, the devil child herself. And Shaka also seems to say this: the strong can apprise their prey and prioritize the most essential targets first. You should have been more cautious. But mysteriously, Zoro actually wants to have a word with Vegapunk. And he says this: there is something I want from you, so you better play nice. Got it? So a couple of questions actually arise from this very statement. What could Zoro possibly want with the famous Dr. Vegapunk? But if you really look at it, especially from last arc in Wano, it kind of makes a lot more sense. I really believe that Zoro is looking for a cure for the smile fruits within Wano. As we know, Chopper wasn't necessarily able to do it, so maybe Zoro's trying to force his way in order to see if Vegapunk can do something about those smile fruits. Or, and here's my personal theory, maybe it can be something related to Stairs Sama, one of the most diabolical enemies in all of One Piece. Okay, let me chill. But basically, Vegapunk #1 obliges to this request. But moving on to the other group, consisting of Luffy, Chopper, Jinbei, and Bonnie, we get some pretty interesting news from Bonnie. It has been confirmed that she is Kuma's daughter, which is crazy because I know a lot of theorists has already predicted this. And the fact that this is actually true makes a whole lot of sense in the grand scheme of things. But in retrospect, she would come to this island even at a young age, and now is trying to figure out why Vegapunk, who seemed to be friends with her father, had completely transformed him into a mindless cyborg. And I believe that hopefully we'll get a nice little backstory on Kuma, maybe get a little bit more insight on him, kind of getting involved with Dragon and the Revolutionary Army, and plus his relationship with the famous Vegapunk. We continue on, and it seems like Luffy's group has successfully infiltrated a portion of Vegapunk's laboratory. And from what we see, it looks absolutely incredible. Kind of reminds me of Dexter's laboratory in the Cartoon Network series. But something is a little off. Luffy, for example, springs into action once he sees a huge dragon-like creature appear out of nowhere. But something is a little off. Luffy, for example, springs into action once he sees a huge dragon-like creature appear out of nowhere. And once Luffy actually goes to attack, it looks like he has been eaten. Yet, he passes right through the creature. And yet in another instance, the gang actually sees a plethora of sweets, candies, and a bunch of desserts. And when they attempt to dig in, they are shocked when they find out that they passed right through the delicious food. Bonnie actually makes them aware that this could be a result of Vegapunk and his holograms, or basically 3D imaging. But we get a very funny callback to Luffy in his Gear 5th form, and basically he's in rage mode. Because he was tricked, but more importantly, there's no food in sight. The gang continues to carry on, and Jinbei, the intelligent fisherman himself, questions why the climate outside of Egghead Island is so cold, yet in this portion of the laboratory, it's very warm, a tropical climate, if you will. And then we get our introduction to a new character, and I'll go ahead and spoil it, is Vegapunk #6. And from the looks of it, maybe, and this is my guess, maybe Vegapunk wanted to have daughters in some kind of aspect, but I think we'll have to see once we see more introductions of the 6 Vegapunks that we're supposed to get introduced to. But Vegapunk #6 lets it be known that this island is set to tropical mode, and is being regulated by an invention called the Island Aeron. Now, Luffy is very funny because in this very moment when Vegapunk #6 comes into play, he immediately thinks that it's a hologram, and in Luffy fashion attempts to go ahead and punch Vegapunk #6. He punches Vegapunk #6 and really nothing happens, but Vegapunk #6 doesn't play that shit and immediately punches Luffy back. And the funny part about knowing this is Luffy is a Yonko, knowing how he can kind of be humanized in this very moment by simply a clone of Vegapunk. So I thought that was hilarious when I actually read it the first time. But one thing leads to another, and we are finally introduced to Vegapunk Atlas number 6. And Bonnie is shocked for the fact that this could be her chance to find answers about her father, Kuma. Now, one thing I would like to say about Bonnie's relationship with her and Luffy is I feel like they will make really good friends, especially with them seeming to bond after this chapter of just enjoying food. But moving on to the end of the chapter, we actually meet up with some old adversaries. In CP0 and the drip god, Luchi himself, who very well might be the swaggiest character in One Piece. And this could be a good debate to have. It's either Luchi, it's either Crocodile, it's either Doflamingo, Trafalgar Law, and I'll throw in my boy Sanji for good measure, because, you know, Sanji got the drip too. But I think undoubtedly Luchi could really make a run for his money as being the swag champ within One Piece. But moving on, we catch up with Luchi, Kaku, and Stussy, and they're all discussing why Vegapunk has 6 other bodies. And I don't know if you guys noted this or maybe not, but Oda actually includes somewhat of a Naruto reference within this last portion of the chapter. Check it out. When Kaku was kind of detailing to Luchi how these satellites for Vegapunk actually works, Luchi says this: "Geniuses are such a pain." Now, if you remember, if you ever watched Naruto or read it, there was a character within Naruto who had separate bodies as well. The antagonist himself, Pain. And I thought this was pretty funny of Oda to kind of sneak that Naruto reference in there. I thought that was pretty hilarious. But later on, we find out what the mission for Luchi and his team are, and they are actually headed to Egghead Island. First off, they are to return the Seraphim modeled after Kuma. This will be very interesting, by the way. And in the process, they aren't to damage any lab equipment, but they are to take out every 6 members of the Vegapunk satellites. And in result, their final mission is to single-handedly kill Vegapunk, the single most useful man within the world. According to Luchi, who also says this: "I wonder if this has something to do with the recent Lelouchia incident." But that is basically the end of the chapter. I'm very excited that we get to see Luchi again. I want to see how far he's come since the last time we've seen him. But I'm going to be honest, if Luffy and Luchi have a rematch, Luffy is beating the brakes off of Luchi. It's not even close. It might be a one-shot for real. But like I said before, I do think that Luchi has a couple more tricks up his bag. But I mean, you know, even looking at the remainder of the other crew, I mean, Kaku, I mean, you know, who was Kaku go to fight? I mean, maybe Zoro. Like, I don't know, Zoro will beat that ass. And then like Stussy, I mean, Sanji probably not gonna fight her, but you know, Robin will probably fight her. Who knows? But I'm very excited to see how things play out from here on out. And I don't know, I feel like this arc may kind of be like a Punk Hazard style arc, where it's a setup to a very big arc coming. And even in this moment, in this arc itself, I'm very excited to see how things transpire. I'm very interested in the Kuma storyline. I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with Sanji, kind of knowing that, you know, his father worked with the famous Vegapunk. And I'm more excited to see my boy Frankie hopefully get some validation from the famous scientist himself. So I really want to see those things. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I'm very excited to see what you guys' opinions are. Let me know in the comments down below. I love you guys. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.